Welcome to the meeting of the Georges River Local Planning Panel. We're the panel who have been appointed by the Council to determine the applications that are on the agenda today in accordance with the requirements of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act. My name's Adam Seaton. I'm the chairperson of the panel. I have today other members of the panel, John Brockhoff to my left, Michael Levy to my right, and our community representative, George Vardis, to my far left. I'm required to advise you that under the provisions of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act, this meeting of the panel is being live streamed and will be made available on the Council's website. Everyone, when they come to speak tonight, or this afternoon, will need to speak into the microphone clearly and ensure that their speech is respectful and appropriate, because a person who uses defamatory, discriminatory or offensive language may be exposed to liability for which the Council and the panel take no responsibility. If the meeting goes into closed session, that part of the meeting is not recorded. We have 7 applications to consider tonight, and we've inspected each of the sites to which those application relates, as well as adjoining premises where persons have requested us to do so. The 7 applications will be dealt with as per the order that is on the agenda presently, although I think we're going to change the matter. Ryan, which one? Trafalgar Street is going to move to the end of the agenda this afternoon. Under the Code of Conduct, panel members are required to disclose any conflicts of interest in respect of any matter on the agenda for a panel meeting, and the relevant forms as prescribed by the Department of Planning have been completed, and I'll table those forms. They're here and they'll be also included on the Council's website. And no panel members disclosed any conflict of interest in any matter on today's agenda. The way the meeting progresses is that we will go through each matter in turn, and we'll hear from those people who have registered to speak. And it's only those people who are permitted to address the panel. Each person who has registered to speak will be provided with 3 minutes to speak, but if you need a little longer because you haven't been able to finish, we'll try and accommodate that. And we hear from objectors first, and then we hear from the representatives of the applicant after the objectors. And just as I said before, when it's your turn to speak, we'll ask you to come forward to the table and speak clearly into the microphone. The microphone does amplify a little so that you can, those in the audience can hear what you're saying as well. And once we've heard from all of the speakers on a particular application, we'll move on to the next application. You're free to leave if that's the only matter of interest to you. And once we've heard from all the people on each of the matters, we then adjourn to go and consider each and deliberate on each of those matters, and our decision will be published on each of the matters on the Council's website tomorrow morning, so you'll be able to see what the result is in each of those particular applications. So the first item that we're going to deal with today is the application relating to the property at 45 Burgess Street, Beverley Park. The development is described as demolition of existing structures, tree removal, and construction of an attached 2-storey dual occupancy with front fencing and associated landscaping works. Against the recommendation for approval, I have 3 people registered to speak: Mr. Hoffmans, Mr. and Mrs. Kypriotis, and Ms. Hale. So I'll just go in that order. If I can have Mr. Hoffmans first come forward, please. Mr. Hoffmans, if you can just tell us your name and address, and then if you can tell us your concerns, please.
My name is Paul Hoffmans, 43 Burgess Street, Beverley Park, next door to the property.
Thank you.
Firstly, look, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. There are so many controls these days, as you know, to ensure compliance with design rules, yet there seem to be insufficient controls to safeguard against the privacy of neighbouring properties. A couple of hours ago, you saw the property and you saw the privacy issues that greatly concern me. I just, respectfully want to point out, you won't be living there. You won't have to put up with the visual impacts. You won't have to put up with the people peering out the side windows straight down into background where my children play. And you won't have to suffer the reduced market value that I will suffer as a result of having a structure next door to me that extends well beyond the rear of my property. But I will. And I just ask, could you please show your sense of care about these things by ensuring that the design is changed to be consistent with existing homes and respectful of the privacy concerns of my family. 12 years ago, when I lodged the DA for the construction for my home, Cogra Council told me that I could not have side windows in the rear upstairs rooms so as the privacy of my neighbour's property was respected. I pointed out to you today when you were there, that when you visited my home, that not only my house, but 2 neighbouring properties on the other side, none of them have side windows in the rear upstairs rooms, for that very reason stipulated by council. All of these homes are modern homes. This DA takes the opposite view, and it actually states that it believes it's unreasonable to expect the property to only have windows facing the backyard and no side windows. I mean, this is totally unfair and disrespectful to the privacy of my family, considering the setbacks. The council's 2020 interim policy has reduced the minimum width for dual occupancy from 18 metres to 15 metres. I'm not sure why. In response to this, developers are not reducing the size of their homes, rather they're changing the shape of the house to be narrower and longer, causing it to stretch further back. This should not be allowed, and to show, as I say, to show respect to existing homes. Trying to fit 2 homes, each with just as many bedrooms as one property, and other rooms on the land the same width as an existing bungalow home is too much. I mean, like 8 bedrooms they're trying to fit in, plus 2 lounge rooms, 2 kitchens, 2 everything else. I mean, this is not Newtown or some other inner city suburb where people are crammed in trying to live on top of each other. Beverley Park is designed to have a village atmosphere, and we want it kept that way. This would be the first dual occupancy in Burgess Street. Please don't let it be a precedent for the residents who live in this street of beautiful bungalow homes. The plans have inconsistencies and lack certain figures needed to fully assess the proposed building. For example, the height levels are not clear. The setbacks stated on page 13 are different to those on page 41. I mean, it's just unsatisfactory. My other neighbour, Michael, will elaborate on this. So overall, I just simply ask that you please refuse this application and that you please tell the applicant that any building must not be set back further than the neighbouring properties on either side. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hopper. Any questions? No, thank you. Could I take a seat? Thank you. Mr. and Mrs. Kypriot, do you want to come together? So, who is going to speak? Good, thank you. If you just tell us your name and address and then tell us what your concerns are.
Maria Kypriotis, 47 Burgess Street, Beverley Park. If you could bear with me, I'm finding this very stressful. So this is our submission regarding the GA. In summary, we object to the following: the building setback, obstruction of privacy, overshadowing, and inconsistency in the plans. We object to the proposed setback of the building extending far beyond the current line of the 2 adjacent houses. The proposed building is oversized in comparison to the dimensions of the land, and as a result, places the building very close to the boundary fences. Furthermore, to the result of that setback, we generously object to the proposed windows, window 5, 6 and 13, as they provide a direct view into our backyard, affording our family no privacy. We object to the single section of the building, as this is very close to street level height on a sloping block, which means the ground floor is near the top of the fence, meaning that any occupant of the house will in effect be standing at almost fence height as they come out of their building. We are also greatly affected by the shadowing. That would mean that all 3 bedroom windows on the top floor will have no sunlight for the entire day in summer, and in winter, 80% of the bedroom and living area windows will not see sunlight. And that makes me feel as if I might as well be living in a cave. We also draw your attention to the inconsistency of the plans, which we feel makes an accurate assessment of the proposed building unsatisfactory. We note that there is a significant discrepancy on the position of house number 47 compared to the plan submitted for number 45. For example, the applicant's submission shows the rear side section of number 47 to be at 9.75 metres, compared to our official approved drawings of 7.630 metres. Also, the application is showing 9.77 metres at the front section of number 47 property, as opposed to our plans, which place the measurement at 10.650. We feel that this discrepancy is significant enough to warrant a reassessment of the development application, providing accurate dimensions. We ask the panel to disallow the DA in its current form.
Ms. Kypriadis.
I just wanted to point out.
Can you just tell us your name and address as well?
Michael Kypriadis, 47 Burgess Street, Beverley Park.
Thank you. And you wanted to say something, Mr.
Yeah,
Kypriadis?
with the discrepancies that Maria mentioned,
Yep.
they're up the top here. And these are the official plans from the architect which council had stamped for us and signed off. In addition, up the top here, they're showing there's 2 windows at the back here. We've only got 1 window.
Doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist as 2 windows.
All right, thank you. All right, you'll have to take a seat. And Ms. Payal, to come forward, please. Ms. Payal, you could just tell us your name and address as well, and then your concerns, please.
Misha Pay, I'm a resident of Cogra Bay, and I'd like to declare that I was elected to Georges River Council in September 2017 to represent Cogra Bay Ward, and I'm a member of Georges River Council's steering committee for the Beverley Park Golf Course. Part of the golf course's lease agreement is that it has a steering committee and that it was reformed by the new council in February of 2018. It last met on the 6th of November, and this matter was not raised then or previously. I had no knowledge of the development application that is attempting to rely on an easement located within council-owned land, being the Beverley Park Golf Course, until I saw the planning panel's agenda last week. So I thank you for allowing me to raise the concern I have with the panel today. The report states that the application has come before the panel for determination because the applicant requires consent from the Beverley Park Golf Club. My own interpretation of the lease agreement is that council has with the golf club is that it would be prevented from doing so. The lease agreement. There is no council resolution to grant this easement either, and the report suggests the panel could approve this application to impel council at a later date to grant the easement. There is no plan of the easement that I can find, only that it will be 1 metre wide and run behind the 2 adjoining properties. The plan of management for the golf course shows the position of the stormwater drains, and I'm guessing the easement would run the length of the 2 adjoining properties, and that's about 30 metres. I can't find any. That's from the plan of management. The property is here,
Yes.
and the stormwater drains are there.
Yes.
So that runs two properties, 30 metres.
Yes.
This would be to the original 1940s infrastructure within the acid sulphate soils. The golf course was reclaimed from the mangrove-filled head of Cogra Bay by dredging in the 1930s, and then was used as a public landfill site. It remains a flood zone and has ancient archaeological potential, as this area was the original bay foreshore. It would appear to be adverse to the core objectives for both managing community land for the community's benefit to provide exclusive use of community land for a private development when there's no evidence that other reasonable alternatives have been attempted. The plan of management for the Beverley Park Golf Course aims to provide consistent and holistic management and, importantly, incorporate ecologically sustainable development principles in view of the RE1 public recreation zoning. And if the golf course must uphold these principles, adjoining developments should too. And I thank you for taking this into your consideration today.
Thank you, Ms. Payne. Any questions? No. No? Thank you. On that matter, I don't have any person registered to speak in support of the officer's recommendation. So that being the case, I'm going to move on to the next matter, and I'll indicate, as I did earlier, that our decision in relation to this matter will be available on the council's website tomorrow. Thank you for those who have attended for that matter. Can I move on to the next matter on the agenda, which is the application for the property at 172 to 174 Railway Parade and 1B Grey Street, Cogra, described as the development being described as demolition of existing structure and construction of a 12-storey shop-top housing development consisting of 52 residential apartments, ground floor commercial retail floor area and 3 levels of basement car parking. On that matter, I don't have any speakers registered to speak against the officer's recommendation, but I do have, I think, Mr. Lucas here to speak in favour of the recommendation. Mr. Apostolou, he's not coming. Okay, all right, thank you. So, Mr. Lucas, could you just tell us your name, address, and then what you wanted to say in relation to the application?
Name Theodore Lucas, architect from Architecture and Building Works, and address is Suite 306, 7 to 9 Gibbon Street, Redfern.
Thank you.
I'm actually really here to answer any questions.
So you're supporting the recommendation?
Correct, that's right.
You don't have anything to say?
No, we haven't got nothing against
The
it.
conditions are acceptable?
Conditions are acceptable, that's all fine. The neighbour directly behind is here, and she said to me, can they start tomorrow? So that's a positive. So we're keen to get it moving. The application's been in council for a while, so we're keen to see it get off the ground.
Right. Does any panel member have any questions about this matter?
Well, one of the recommendations is that you need to get a remediation plan,
We've actually done that.
and you've done that,
Yes.
but that it would have to be advertised, so it would go on notification. Do you have a view about that?
Well, we were hopeful that would have come up, a while ago, because the DA has been in council for a while. But, if that's the only choice we've got, we have no choice. So if it has to be advertised, it has to be advertised. But if there's a way around it, we'd prefer that,
So,
obviously.
as I said, the recommendation is for deferral.
Yeah.
So you've got no problem with that
Well,
presently?
I don't think there's any way you can get around it anyway, because legally I believe it does have to be advertised. So if we've got no other choice, if legally we don't have to advertise, I prefer that and get rid of the deferral. But if we've got no choice, well, we've got no choice. Yeah.
Had a question to do with the car parking for the retail spaces and just how you're looking to distribute those parking spaces, given that there are 2 stacked spaces.
So the stack spaces, sorry, hang on a second. I know what you're saying. So we've got 2 spaces. There's actually 3. There's only 2 lots.
Well, there's 4 spaces, but practically speaking, I think the 2 would need to operate with the 1 tenancy.
Correct. That's right. So we'll have to have a look at that and just see how we can actually obviously combine that.
So you're intending to allocate sort of
Correct. Yes.
a
The
stack
2
of
of them
2
to one.
spaces.
Correct. To the 1 tenancy. That's correct. That's right.
That's all.
No other questions?
No other questions.
No, thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next matter on the agenda is relating to the property at 50.
No, that's been.
No, we're moving that Trafalgar Street one, I think. Yes. That's right. So if we can move to the next one, which is the relates to the property at 268 Carrington Avenue, Hurstville. And that's development described as demolition of all structures, boundary adjustment and construction of 2 semi-detached dwellings. In respect of that matter, I don't have anybody registered to speak. So I'll move on to the next matter, which is the application relating to the property at 37 Plimsoll Street, San Souci, development described as demolition of existing structures and construction of a 2-storey dwelling house, swimming pool, detached cabana and front fence. On that matter, I have one speaker in support of the officer's recommendation, it says, but I don't think that's the case because it says refusal. I presume it's against the officer's recommendation. So Ms. Christie is registered to speak on that matter. Ms. Christie, just tell us your name and business address, and then what you wanted to say in relation to the
Sure.
the recommendation.
And my name's Tina Christie. I work for a planning firm, City Plan, which is situated in Sussex Street, Sydney. I'm here on behalf of the owner of the application and against the recommendation for refusal. First, I'd like to thank the chair and the planning panel for listening to us today. Before we get too far into it, I just wanted the panel to be aware that we had submitted, since this report was written, the client has submitted amended plans to council demonstrating the variation to the floor space ratio has been reduced down to a 4.48% variation. My understanding is that we would like the matter to be deferred back to council staff for determination, because that no longer puts it into the panel's delegations.
So you've formally lodged an amendment to the application, and
Yes.
you're seeking...
The council officers haven't assessed it yet. They haven't had a chance to assess it. Yes.
You formally made an application to amend your development application, and you're asking for us to defer a determination on what is, at the moment, the application that's been put before us.
What I'm asking is, the council officers asked if we would like to amend our application. We formally put in plans to amend that, and we are asking that the application, the amended plans, be assessed by council.
Yes, I understand that. So you're asking us to defer any determination on what we have
Yep.
before
Yes.
us at the moment.
Yes.
All right, are there any questions about that?
No questions.
No, there's no questions. So we will make a determination on what we do in relation to that later this evening. It'll be available on our website tomorrow.
Okay. Can I just ask one question?
Yeah.
If the panel decides not to defer it for whatever reason, does the panel determine it now, or does it come back, or?
Panel, if it was going to determine the application,
Yep, we'll determine it
what's
now. Yep.
before it.
Okay,
Now,
that's fine.
yeah. Good.
Right,
Thank you. Next matter on the agenda, it relates to the property at 83A Kyle Parade, Kyle Bay. Development described as alterations and additions to existing dwelling, including internal excavation. On that matter, I have speaking, I think, against the officer's recommendation.
That's correct.
Because the recommendation is for refusal. It's Mr. Samet.
Yep.
Yeah, so Mr. Samet, if just tell us your full name and your business address.
Cool.
That would be as a start.
So my name is Stephen Samet. My business address is 265 Penny Hills Road, Thornley. And I'd firstly like to start by thanking you for this opportunity to speak. So we're going...
The officer's recommendation is for refusal, so you want to tell us why we shouldn't refuse it?
Yes, yes. So it's what we were told by the assessing officer is it's an internal policy that if you're trying to vary something by more than 10% under the LEP, and that it will be recommended for refusal. In the context of this site, we are proposing to provide additional gross floor area underneath the dwelling. It's quite unique in its nature. We're doing alterations and additions, which involves knocking out a back wall that's underground and extending out further. So the objectives of the FSR is to do with bulk and scale. In this scenario, there is no additional bulk and scale. So on that, we would like to have this assessed on its merits, because we know it can't be done under delegation. With that as well, council did highlight a few other issues that dealt with carrying out and management of excavation and not submitting a soil and sedimentation plan. However, in their report, they have said that if you were to approve the variation to the FSR, that it can be done with as a deferred commencement, where we can provide dilapidation reports and such to do with that matter. So I just want to stress again that council, during their assessment of the DCP, said it complied. There was no submissions received. and the residential amenity of the adjoining properties will not be impacted. This is solely, or majority of it is under the existing ground level. And because it is an internal policy to refuse anything that exceeds a 10% variation, you guys have the power to overturn that, and we were thinking that that would be the case from the start, so we kindly request you to review that further.
Thank you, Mr. Samet. Are there any questions?
I have one.
Thanks, John.
Sure.
In order to stay within the FSR, is there any possibility of designing a net situation where you're able to reduce FSR reduce floor space from somewhere else to achieve a result that avoided the need for a 4.6?
Not necessarily. We're proposing a 24% variation, so we're trying to get additional bedrooms in there and a lift and a few other living spaces. So we can't really take it out anywhere else unless we convert habitable areas into a storage below ground and have it excluded that way. We did investigate those options, but the reality is, even if we convert habitable areas and try and make it excluded, it's still like the proposal's still the same. We're still going to be building into the dirt, pulling it out, and then it's sitting everything underneath. So yeah, we're not trying to. It's intensifying the use, the residential use, but we're not impacting on anyone, and that's what we've been trying to achieve.
No, I'm not going to be your designer, but
Yeah,
I'm sure
yeah.
you've looked at those sorts
Yes,
of
we have.
alternatives,
Yes, we have.
both up top and elsewhere on the.
Yeah.
On the property.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, Kat. So if
If you're going to speak, you'll need to tell us your name and
My
address.
name is Kai.
Your full name? Yeah.
Kai. CAIQING.
QING.
Yeah.
Okay, and your address?
The 83 Calvary.
Thank you. What was it you wanted to say?
I just wondering what's the issue at the moment? So the floor there's good too many floor. Is that's me?
You can answer a question if John, if you have a question.
No, but I'll leave it to the chair to
I can go through it with
If you
you.
wanted to say something else about.
That's all right. I can speak to him about that. Yep.
You had the question, Michael?
Yes, well, look, it's part observation, but putting aside the floor space variation, I'm just wondering what thought's gone into the amenity of these new areas that are being constructed in terms of access to light and ventilation, given that they are largely below ground floor.
Yes. With that, we did consult with a BCA consultant, and we, that the rooms can get ventilation. It's not much, but it can comply as per the Building Code of Australia.
Is there good amenity for habitable rooms?
I would say there is good amenity.
And also too on level 1, there's a storage area and a new theatre, both of which are very large, and I'm just thinking that there's a lot of work to do to create those spaces.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much utility there is in them really.
So with the storage spaces, they were put there because there was no storage in the existing dwelling. So we're just trying to create that space.
Very large storage area.
It is. But my client's in the position that he can afford to do so, and that facilitated part of the design.
Okay, that's all. Thanks.
I'm just interested in your environmental planning grounds that you rely upon for justifying the contravention of the standard. Did you write it seems Mr. Minto wrote the clause 4.6
That's my director.
request?
Yeah.
Okay. And when you say, or when it's said in here that one of the grounds is that it's doesn't result in increase in height, bulk and scale of the building, of the existing building, and considered to be a positive environmental outcome.
Yep.
Because there's no change to the building appearance. One might have thought that if you were designing this building and wanted to put the floor space where you're proposing to put it now, it would have resulted in a reduction in the bulk of the overall building as it presents. So you are increasing the bulk because you're not taking it away from somewhere else.
Yes, but the bulk it's not visual bulk. That's our planning ground. It's not visual. It's being further excavated, and the bulk isn't going to be any more significant when viewed from the river or from the streetscape.
What I'm saying to you is if you had brought this application as an application for a new dwelling,
Yeah.
and had this floor space in it,
Yep.
you wouldn't have had as much bulk towards the water side, presumably. You would have had it further into the site.
Yes.
So there is an increase in bulk.
Of course there is. Like we're increasing the size of the dwelling. It's obvious. But I think the bulk is acceptable because the appearance of the building isn't being, if you're looking at it from a neighboring property or from the street or from the river, it's going to look the same. It's all underground, and we understand that we are increasing the footprint underneath the existing building envelope, but that's all.
You understand what this encourages, right? This encourages people creating buildings with large undercroft areas and then coming and seeking to fill it in later, not calling it floor space.
I understand that, but I don't think many people would go to the expense of doing what this is proposing. It's a very expensive thing. Like the excavation has to be done by hand. There's a lot of structural work that needs to go into this. I think most people wouldn't be trying to do what this application is doing just because it's just not feasible for most people.
And is that one of your environmental planning grounds you rely upon? That's not the test, is it?
No.
Whether you can afford it or not?
No, I understand that. But I just don't think that this is going to be a precedent for future development for that reason.
All right. Yes, Mike.
Just one further follow-up question to an earlier answer.
Sure.
So was there a BCA assessment submitted with the application?
No, it was just a preliminary consultation with them.
So in terms of overall BCA compliance,
yeah.
Can we have some confidence that it could comply?
If you guys were to defer the matter, we could provide that, and we could also satisfy the sedimentation issue that you guys raised. In saying that as well, if you guys proceed to deferring it further, that would also be favourable for us because this application was shifted between 3 assessment planners, and we only really got any communication out of you guys towards the end of it. So we didn't really have much time to respond to any requests for additional information or anything like that.
All right, any other questions? No questions. No. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Our decision in relation to that will be published on the council's website tomorrow morning, so you can have a look.
Thank you.
See what it is. Thank you.
Can I ask a question? So actually you're saying the bottom floor is too much here?
I'm not saying anything.
No,
We're just hearing what you're saying against the officer's recommendations. So
Okay, I thought that you
we haven't made any decision yet. No.
Okay, also if it's too much, I can tell him to reduce some place.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Can I move to the next matter on the agenda, which is the application relating to the land at 72 Connells Point Road, South Hurstville. The development proposed is alterations and additions to the South Hurstville RSL Club. Don't have anybody registered to speak on that matter, so I'm going to move on to the last matter on the agenda, which was the matter that we deferred till the end, and that's the application relating to the property of 57 to 59 Trafalgar Street, Seakhurst, for development described as demolition works and construction of a 4-storey residential flat building containing 14 units with 21 car parking spaces. On that matter, I have one person registered to speak against the officer's recommendation and 2 people in support. Ms. Hahn, you're here to speak against the recommendation. You'd like to take the seat, please? If you just tell us your name and address and then your concerns, please.
Hi, my name is Xiaomei Han. I live in number 12, Garver Street, just behind the proposed building site. Okay, I'm not a professional urban planner, but as a resident, just want to express what I feel. My property is facing part of the Peahurst Park. From my property, the veranda and the balcony, we can have part of the park wheel. The 57 to 59, the Trafalgar Street is before us. To me, the common sense is to have all the residents around the park to share the park well. You're not going to put a big building or a layer of the big building as around the park to seal it. To me, the nearest buildings around the park should be lower. Then you got a bit higher or the similar height. So to do that, that's going to make sure all the residents around that share a big park well. So for me, it's a bit weird, against the common sense, to put a 4-story building in front of a 2-story one. So that's totally blocked the well. Because when I bought the property 6 years ago, I really enjoy it. It's nice and quiet. But then it was rezoned to the medium density zone. Then all the apartments erect. So of course the height and the wheel is my first concern. Also the privacy, the noise. There's one more concern for me is because to my left of my property and to the right, both are old house. I think both may be satisfied for the area of the block to build apartment. So if both are sold, that means I have apartment in front of me, to the left of me, and to the right of me. It feels a bit like you're driving a small car in the middle lane. Then the big container truck in front of you. There's another one to the left, and another one to the right. You feel psychologically you are pressed and you're dwarfed. And for that in that situation, it's very hard for you to use the veranda and the backyard, because when you do something there, you feel maybe not true, but people are looking at you, which feels really pressed and uneasy. That's the main concern. And there's also one is the sewage in the backyard. Because when I submit my objection, I put it there, but I don't know whether that issue can be solved with the 4-story building there, because no one confirmed me that that sewage thing can be solved or not. So that's basically what I need to say, because when I go past number 20 on the street, the 20 and 20A, which already have been wrapped or halfly wrapped by the 3 high buildings. So which I thought is lost the value as a house or duplex. So basically if that happens, my property, the value will decrease, or it may take a very long time for it on the market to sell, or because no one wants that as a house. So you pay the price as a house, but you actually live in the middle of the apartments. And I searched on internet, there is a guideline about the apartment, how to plan the apartment. That's one paragraph which said about the building height. So that's one said the building height controls consider the height of existing buildings that are unlikely to change. So I think that's the situation of mine, because my property was built before it was rezoned. So no one expects that it's going to be high buildings around us. So my building is not tall enough for some of the buildings. They have the base layer of the garage and the residence above, which may reach to 3 levels. Maybe that's much better now in this area. So, but for me, I can't change it anymore. So I hope the council and the panel, when you consider the decision, just think about, like, I'm the person living there, maybe going to be for a long time. When you look at the plan, the graphs, it may meet the standards of the red tape, but for the people really living there, are facing the 3D building around you, it's totally a different feeling. So I'm not professional, but that's what I'm going to say. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have you got any questions?
No questions.
No, take a seat. Take a seat and I'll hear from the applicant's representatives. I've got Mr. Moroz and Mr. Karavalis. All right, gentlemen, if you could just introduce yourselves and your business addresses, please. And then see that the recommendation is for refusal. Tell us why.
Yeah.
We shouldn't do that.
Afternoon all. My name's Bernard Morales. I'm the town planner from BMA Urban on this project. I've got the designer here, William Caravellis from Cornerstone Design. We've reviewed council's report, and in lieu, in lieu of the refusal, would like to seek a deferral on this matter. I'll give you a brief summary of what's occurred since the report's been prepared. I have just received an email. We've approached 55 Trafalgar Street. Site isolation was a matter of concern, be it number 55 Trafalgar Street. It's owned by the Land and Housing Corporation. What we've spoken to them since. It's been reviewed at their meeting this afternoon in terms of if they would look at, I guess, disposing of that property in the near future. I've got an email here that says that the LAHC has decided that this property will be retained at this point in time. Therefore, it's not open for sale. And they've got no intent, I guess, of putting it. I guess we cannot make an offer to them anyway. It needs to go out because it's owned by LAHC. It needs to go out to auction anyway. But they've got no intent in selling the property. So there's no need for us to pursue that any further. I forward that email through to council's planning officer. In terms of owner's consent for the easement. We've approached the owners. We've sent registered mail through to the owners seeking consent for that. We haven't received any feedback at this point in time, but it is something that we will follow up. The other matters, I guess, in terms of issues with parking and ADG compliance, I might actually hand over to Will here, William, to just go through those matters and how we've addressed them in the interim.
Council in their report stated that they thought that the parking didn't comply with the Australian standards. We've since had our traffic engineer assess the parking. He's done his turning templates and is given us a report stating that yes, it does comply with Australian standards and that the parking is fully compliant. There was also Traffic Motion is the company. we've forwarded that report to council. We've also had our access consultant have a look at the adaptable parking, and he also has signed that off and amended his adaptability report that we lodged with the original DA, and that has been forwarded to council, again stating that he has no issue with the parking. In terms of setbacks, we were of the opinion that we fully complied with setbacks. We went to the
In terms of ADG separation.
ADG separation. We went to the design review panel, and in their report, they also stated that we were fully compliant. What has transpired since then is that the survey that was done, which showed the neighbouring buildings, showed the building at 61 to 65 Trafalgar, which is, you would have seen this afternoon,
Yeah.
which is already there. They had that at 8.2 metre side setback. And we took that as being correct. We then designed our building with to have the compliant setbacks. What has what we found out only late yesterday afternoon from council was that the approval was for 7 metres, and we had our surveyor check that this morning, and he concluded that he made a mistake on the survey, and that it is setback 7 metres. In saying that, we then reassessed our side setback to the, in terms of front setback complies, rear setback complies, setback to 55 Trafalgar complies. In terms of our setbacks to 61 to 65 Trafalgar, there's, if I may just give an indication, there's that's 61 to 65 on the side there.
What Will refers to complies is the 12 metre, I guess, separation.
Separation.
Which is not complies.
Correct. We're borrowing off their setback as well. Yeah.
Well, the requirement under the ADG
Correct.
is to the boundary.
Correct. Yeah. So we are borrowing. Yeah.
So in terms of the 12 metre separation, we're 95 millimetres short on these bedrooms at the front, and we're 270 millimetres short to this living dining area. We're quite happy to, if you deem it necessary, we're quite happy to put fixed louvers in order to maintain privacy to the property next door. But and yeah, again on the balcony as well. But again, that the variation is it's not a great variation.
We don't anticipate there'll be a great deal of material benefit or improvement, I guess, from reciprocal privacy impacts between the buildings for sake of 90 to 200 mil. But we are happy to introduce screening or any other device if the panel would deem acceptable.
Was that it, gentlemen?
That's it, yeah.
Okay, are there any questions? No questions. George? No. Michael? So there was the other matter in relation to site isolation. You say, well, you can sell at 55. Have you provided some information as to what could be done on number 55? Or
we are happy to do
some
that.
information
Definitely.
as to a design or a scheme?
Definitely.
And what do you have in mind as to what could happen on number 55?
There was a similar isolated site, I think, on Gover Street behind. I think they proposed a smaller residential flat building, and there's another one on Gover Street where a boarding house development was proposed on the isolated site.
You haven't fixed on what you would.
We have not.
Scheme could.
No. But we will explore that. We'll definitely explore that.
Hence the reason we're asking for a deferment, just to clean up.
And how long do you think, gentlemen, it would take to put all the information together that you will need to put together?
We'll have it done this evening, so we can we'll get onto it as soon as we can.
You have it all done this evening.
Maybe by Monday morning at the latest. But no, it's we've done similar schemes before for sites like that. So
I think,
it's something we can.
I think a week would suffice.
Yeah.
If the panel was willing to offer that.
Right. Okay. There's no other questions. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
That's the last matter on our agenda this evening. And we are now going to adjourn the meeting and carry out our deliberations, and our decisions will be available on the council's website tomorrow morning. Thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Is the dispute of the panel,
Sorry?
is the dispute of the panel final or is it anywhere else on the appeals?
I can't give you advice on that. You'd have to seek your own advice on it. So you can see what our determination is, but if you need advice on what you can or can't do, you'll have to seek that through your own legal representation. Okay, thank you.